We've all seen movies and read numerous books, and there's always a villain and there's always a hero. You know, the good old good and evil. Have you ever wondered who the greatest evil of all is? Not quantitatively, but qualitatively. Of course, that's going to be the devil himself. Satan, also called First of the Fallen, was initially featured in the story Dangerous Habits in the 42nd issue of the comic book series John Constantine, Hellblazer. Garth, Ennis, and Will Simpson created this mystical epic. Satan as a character may seem like a cliche, but he's a villain engulfed by his ego. He's a complicated man, quite powerful, but often finds himself in a weak boat of his sense of identity in the middle of a storm. It makes him a more relatable character as well, but it's kinda weird relating to the King of Hell, however undisputably powerful it may make you feel, right? Before you make up your mind, let's discover all there is to know about Satan. We'll spare you the theatrics, but believe me when I tell you this is gonna be a hell of a journey. Before we get into our explanation, we do have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to the channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin.
The chance to prove.
Who is the first of the fallen? Before we talk about the cool/horrible things about our villain, let's dive deep and learn a little bit about the origins of Satan, like a flashback in a movie where they show what makes the villain. Once God's confidant, Satan was created by the universe to carry God's kindness and justice. It wasn't long before he realized that God was weak and insane. He went adrift, casting a different path for himself, a path of evil and malice. As a result, he was thrown into the depths of hell, hence the name First of the Fallen. After being banished, Satan was joined by the second of the fallen, Azazel, and the third of the fallen, Beelzebub. Satan thought Azazel and Beelzebub, along with their demonic superpowers, would help him rule hell, but his reign was short-lived. Fun fact for you Constantine fans, you might have seen Beelzebub as a shapeshifter who often turns into a fly. Satan has a kingdom now. It's hell, but it's still a kingdom. He has these two new mates with him, so he suggests a triumvirate. Their happily ever after didn't last for too long, though. The more the merrier just simply doesn't exist in hell in terms of conflicts of interest, especially when the interest is power. The celebrity devil, Lucifer, soon accompanied them. It turns out, Lucifer disrupted their triumvirate arrangement with the help of Azazel, only to go to Earth later, but this isn't Lucifer's story, it's Satan's. Focus. So, the triumvirate is restored, and Satan is the undisputed king of hell once more. We've dug deep into the grave of Satan's history, so let's talk about his first appearance in the Hellblazer comic book series. The dance between Satan and John Constantine starts with a sly tale. John Constantine is the only mortal who ever bested Satan. John met Satan while visiting his drunk friend Finn, who had the greatest wine collection. John was meeting Finn to find a magical cure for his cancer, but as if great powers were at play, it was the same day Satan was coming to claim Finn's soul. Finn makes a deal with the devil, and he sells his soul in exchange for the greatest collection of wine. Finn had a cellar full of barrels of wine, but that wine was actually made of holy water. It was magic in the candles around the water that turned it into wine. The magic was meant to last only until midnight. Finn felt ill when it was close to midnight, and he knew the end was near. John makes Finn comfortable and tries his best to comprehend the situation, but someone is at the door. Suddenly, the place is filled with an eerie silence, almost too chilling to bear. John rushes towards the door. A tall, terrifying man stands at the door, well dressed enough to make you second-guess your senses. It's Satan, and he's here to collect what was promised to him, Finn's soul. John isn't impressed by the dramatics of his entry, he seems very chill about it. He takes him to the cellar, where Finn is lying half dead or drunk, who knows. Satan reveals he knows John's dad, but it's a story for another time. John offers Satan a drink, maybe the most expensive drink in the world, a drink paid for by the soul. Even though Satan has never tasted a wine so smooth, balanced, and elegant, suddenly he feels a burn. John smirks while Satan struggles. It's time for the surprise test, everyone. The magic of the candles turned holy water into wine. Brownie points for guessing what holy water might do to the devil himself. Satan wails and screeches in pain and gets consumed by sacred water. This marks the start of a rivalry that lasts forever. John is always trying to best Satan, and Satan always comes back stronger, like two enemies dancing the salsa. Major story arcs for the First of the Fallen. We already talked about Satan's origin and the first encounter between Satan and John Constantine, his biggest adversary, at great length. Still, we assure you there's more to Satan's story than what we've covered so far. we're going to take a deep dive into the major story arcs of Satan in the Constantine universe. A lot happens around these incidents, but we'll focus on what makes Satan's story what it is now. Number 1. Dangerous Habits, issue 41 through 46. The Dangerous Habits story arc marks the start of the rivalry between Satan and Constantine. They first meet in this story arc, and the encounter between them that occurs at Finn's place in this story arc binds their fates forever. This showdown seals the destiny of Constantine's soul, as Satan intends to claim it by right of insult, as seen in issue 44, My Way. Satan's role is not just that of an immortal Lord of Hell who is made a joke of by underestimating Constantine when he met him at Finn's. In fact, it escalates in the story arc's climax in issue 46. In a desperate attempt to live and escape the torments of hell, Constantine orchestrates the highest level of poker with his life. He was already dying, there just weren't enough breaths left in him. Nevertheless, he had one thing left: enough life inside him and the will to avoid surrendering his fate to the hands of Satan. Constantine makes a deal with both First of the Fallen and Second of the Fallen. He sells his soul to both of them. He reaches his old apartment and cuts his nerves. Engulfed by his overpowering pride, Satan arrives for a bit of mockery, unaware of what's waiting for him. To his dismay, the First of the Fallen is shortly followed by the Second of the Fallen and the Third of the Fallen. When Constantine's scheme comes to light, the First is incensed by the sheer audacity of a mortal outsmarting him. Satan calls Constantine a pathetic little man in rage and vows to make his eventual damnation exquisite. He assumes maybe he can dominate the Second and the Third, but his overconfidence is his undoing. Their mutual defiance forces him into a corner, and in order to save hell from a riot, he has to swallow the bitter pill and heal Constantine. His parting glare and promise of vengeance marks the birth of their personal feud. All of this makes Satan's role very compelling. It humanizes him through his flaws. He's not an abstract evil, he's a tyrant with an ego, offended that a dying con man can threaten his authority. This arc sets up a dynamic where Constantine's cunning perpetually checks the First's immense power, a tension that drives later arcs like Critical Mass and Rake at the Gates of Hell. Number 2. Critical Mass, issue 55 through 61. John Constantine and the First of the Fallen are now in open rebellion against each other. In further issues, their hatred towards each other grows even deeper. For better understanding, let's divide the entire issue into parts according to the events that take place across this story arc. Rising tensions and Ellie's plight. The story arc opens with John Constantine already entangled in multiple threats. He's been monitoring the Resurrection Crusade, a violent Christian cult. At the same time, his uneasy alliance with Ellie, a succubus he's worked with before, becomes a liability. For context, Ellie seduces an angel, Tally. Ellie falls in love, and now a golden child is in the picture. The Resurrection Crusade believes it'll save humanity, so now everyone is interested in the baby. Ellie and Tally go to the only unbiased person they can find, John Constantine. But how does Satan fit into the picture? Let's find out. The First of the Fallen is not explicitly named yet, but Hell's interest in Ellie's baby hints at his influence. Ever the improviser, Constantine crafts a magical sigil to hide Ellie's soul, effectively shielding her from Hell's immediate reach. This act of defiance against Hell's order sets the stage for Satan's involvement, though his presence looms in the background initially. The Astral Gambit, issue 57 through 58. In issue 58, Satan makes his first shadowy appearance. As Constantine disrupts the Resurrection Crusade's astral preparations, he senses a malevolent presence watching him. The First of the Fallen manifests as a towering, indistinct figure wreathed in darkness, his voice dripping with ancient malice. He doesn't attack outright, but observes, intrigued by Constantine's audacity. Satan recognizes Constantine as the meddlesome mortal who's been thwarting Hell's designs. Resolution and Aftermath, issue 60 through 61. There's been a development in the story now. Constantine has figured out the place where the Resurrection Crusade wishes to perform the ritual. With quick thinking and help from his allies, Constantine disrupts the ceremony where the Crusade uses Ellie's baby as a vessel for the Golden Child. The Golden Child is a potential apocalyptic entity, but Constantine saves the day with magic, and he scatters the cult members. Satan is not in the physical world. He lingers as an astral projection. Satan has all the power to stop Constantine, but he plays the long game. It's like a strategic pause. This story arc establishes that heaven will not have Constantine, and the Lord of Hell has had enough of Constantine's wit. It's personal now. His authority is being questioned again and again. Satan seems like a patient predator. He knows Constantine will eventually fall into hell for him to torment for the rest of eternity. 3. Rake at the Gates of Hell, issue 76 through 83. Grab your tissue boxes for this next story arc because it's an emotional roller coaster. Without getting into much detail, this story arc mainly focuses on how Satan tries to get back at Constantine by breaking him emotionally by pulling his strings from hell. This story arc features Constantine's love interest, Kit Ryan, and Satan uses her largely throughout this arc. Constantine is fragile at this point, and Satan orchestrates events to strike at him, breaking him emotionally and spiritually before claiming his soul. It's not just Kit, Satan targets everyone close to Constantine. Satan uses Constantine's greatest guilt against him. He resurrects Astra Luge, a girl Constantine accidentally damned to hell. Astra's resurrection works like a twisted taunt to Constantine, who's trying very hard to be hopeful after finding Kit, but keeps reliving his greatest guilt by facing Astra. Constantine gets a devastating blow when Cheryl becomes a casualty because of Satan's machinations. Too many characters, right? Cheryl is Kit's sister. Just imagine Kit's grief losing a sister over a war she isn't even a part of. This drives a wedge between Constantine and Kit, taking away his chance to find some happiness and contentment. Up until issue 79, Satan harasses Constantine passively by harming his allies and taking them away one by one, isolating him completely. Even Finn's ghost isn't spared. It's clear how passionately Satan despises Constantine. There's even a subplot with a London gangster, Harry Cooper, who helps Satan out. In the 79th issue, Satan emerges in his physical form, finally, with a terrifying horned visage that radiates malice. He gives Constantine a philosophical monologue about how he's God's shadow and how he has a greater purpose and how Constantine is too insignificant to ever understand the bigger picture. The spotlight is on how futile Constantine's efforts are as he's merely hampering the divine order of things. Satan believes he's punishing the people who have sinned, ultimately saving humanity. This monologue deepens Satan's character, portraying him as a tragic figure bound by his role, yet reveling in it. Constantine, although battered, isn't ready to give up yet. He tries to concoct a plan in a desperate attempt at rebellion. In Ireland, Kit is alone under the demonic assault. Constantine goes to Ireland to help Kit through magic and manipulation. He succeeds, but soon enough, Satan drags him into a metaphysical showdown at the edge of hell, like the gates in the title. Issues 80 and 81 are the centerpieces of this story arc, the great confrontation we've all been waiting for. The pawns have left the chessboard. Satan tries to break down Constantine by using his telekinetic powers, making him relive the guilt and failures of his life. Cheryl's life and Kit's departure come rushing back to him. Constantine refuses to give up. He challenges Satan's omnipotence. The first of the fallen is now enraged and almost kills Constantine. At this point, we're appalled by Constantine's wit and luck, and a loophole emerges. The first and the second of the fallen begin arguing over hell's jurisdiction, giving Constantine a reprieve. Satan retreats after Constantine spits on his face, symbolic of his resistance. Satan is humiliated, but it's not a victory in the traditional sense. In this story arc, Satan's retreat is his final appearance. His parting words were, "I'll be waiting." It underscores the endless nature of their conflict. Unable to endure Constantine's cursed life, Kit leaves him. Satan truly broke Constantine, and he's seen back in London contemplating his lost friends and the looming threat of the King of Hell. Hell is quiet, Satan is alone, brooding over his failure with wounded pride and unbroken resolve. He's also doubtful about his role as a punisher, hinting at existential crises, a vulnerability that humanizes him, forcing us to sympathize with him. 4. Ashes and Dust in the City of Angels. Issues 164 through 74. In this story arc, Satan is a subtle manipulator, a lurking, malevolent presence rather than a central combatant. Do you know what's missing from this story? Prison. There's no great story without prison, not the prison of grief that Constantine is enduring, but an actual prison. So, for a brief period, Constantine goes to jail. After escaping the material hell on Earth, he goes to Los Angeles. Will Satan let up for a bit, knowing he just came out of prison? Constantine has a special talent for attracting drama, so he gets caught up in a corrupt pornography empire run by Stanley W. Manor. He's a very powerful man in Hollywood. His operation is sleazy, the occult infuses it and degrades the souls. The first of the fallen's influence begins to sweep through via reflections of demonic figures in the mirror and strange occurrences. Satan sits back and lets human greed do his bidding, although all this makes Constantine suspicious that Satan is in the shadows. He neither confronts nor makes any appearances directly. There's a tug of war between Manor and Constantine, exposing the darkness of the human soul. It's a party for Satan. He doesn't even have to lift a finger. As Constantine digs deeper and deeper, he finds himself in a quicksand of ritualistic enterprise designed to harvest despair, challenging it to hell. In issue 168, Constantine sees Satan in a vision in a pool of blood. He mocks Constantine by telling him he can never outrun his fate and that his every step brings him closer to hell. Satan has a deal with Manor. He feeds off the souls degraded by these films. Satan is more of a puppet master at this point. Constantine plots to demolish Manor's entire empire by sowing the seed of doubt in his partner in crime and forcing Manor to come eye to eye with his dark soul at last. His plan works and the empire crashes under its own weight. Manor dies in the process. Satan comes back into the picture, watching the chaos from Manor's mansion, sitting in his chair. What Satan reveals next feels like someone has stabbed you with a knife, but you survive it, and then they twist it again. Amidst the carnage, he's seen sipping a drink and congratulating Constantine. He tells John that the wreckage and death that he caused still serves Hell's ends. Satan's sardonic applause makes him look like a profiteer of menace rather than an instigator. The first of the Fallen's abilities and looks. When it comes to powers, Satan is no different than any other demon. That said, he is the most powerful of all demons and sucks the air out of the room in which he walks, embodying the apex of fallen angel powers. He has crimson skin, grotesque horns, and a muscular frame. He looks extremely deadly, and understandably so. Besides his scary presence, he also has supernatural demonic powers that make him nearly unbeatable. Number 1. Cosmic Awareness. In issue 59, Satan gives casual references to Constantine's past sins, suggesting that his awareness and knowledge of celestial events spans dimensions and timelines, especially when it comes to the souls that are tied to hell. 2. Dimensional Travel. Satan is not tied to one dimension only. He can travel back and forth to Earth and Hell as he wishes, as seen in issue 43, when Satan thought he had Constantine, so he traveled to Earth to claim his soul. Still, Constantine tricks him into healing his cancer. 3. Energy Projection. Satan has infernal energy, which he unleashes in devastating bursts from time to time to intimidate his enemies. He even did this during a confrontation with Constantine in issue 62. 4. Fatal Touch. Satan has a deadly touch. He can disintegrate and reduce his subordinate demons into ashes with a single touch. It's one of his most terrifying abilities. This also proves his dominance in hell and is one of the reasons for the highest hierarchy in hell. 5. Healing Abilities. Satan is an angel after all, a fallen angel but still an angel. He can heal others. In issue 43, he cures Constantine's cancer for his selfish reasons because he wants to have him and cannot let the second of the fallen and the third of the fallen have him instead. 6. Immortality. Satan's essence is tied to hell. He is beyond death. He has existed since eternity's dawn. 7. Magic and Mind Control. In issue 45, Satan binds a soul to an object, showing his mastery of potent magic tied to hell's arcane laws. Likewise, he can distort human minds and be a puppet master sometimes. In issue 59, he influences fishermen to kill each other by amplifying their greed and rage. 8. Necromancy. As the Lord of Hell, he bends the souls bound to hell according to his will and makes them do his bidding. 9. Reality Alteration. He twists reality in exchange for souls, a fair trade for a wish, and claims a soul to torment in hell. 10. Teleportation and Telekinesis. In issue 45, Satan flings Constantine across the room with just a gesture, manipulating people or objects without getting in contact with them. Being a supernatural entity, he can disappear and reappear at will, often flexing it to spread terror among his enemies or souls meant for hell. Marvelous Verdict. The first of the fallen is like a mirror into John Constantine's fractured soul, no matter how much he tries to escape this reality. Satan is a narcissistic, envious being whose deep-rooted identity crises come to the surface as rage, despair, and from time to time, an unquenchable thirst for retribution. He shows us this side occasionally, like during his long monologue in Critical Mass. It seems like he's badly wounded by the primal rejection of God when he chooses humanity over Satan. Satan saw this as a weakness and loathes human beings, often calling them vermin. His buried inferiority festers in his obsessive vendetta against Constantine. A mortal outsmarting him opens his scars of a deep-seated fear of abandonment. His pride keeps him in a cat-and-mouse chase with Constantine. He sees it as a personal crusade when it's more of a cosmic duty. He is Constantine's fear of damnation made flesh. He is the Lord of Hell, a different dimension, yet he indulges in matters of mortal beings and refuses to rise above his ego. This constant battle traps him in a self-inflicted tournament ignited by his insecurity and rage, rendering him as much a prisoner of hell as he is its lord. That's all we got for you this time, but if you enjoyed our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Otherwise, thanks for watching, stay safe out there, and have a marvelous day.